Hey boys and girls, I'm going to go ahead and go over your assignment for 1203B in math. So you're going to go to your math course. You're going to go to your Module 12 folder and open up that folder. And we are looking at lesson 1203B, line plots with fractions. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Click on the lesson to make it bigger. And this lesson is 7 pages long, so make sure you go through all 7 pages. You're going to be working on creating a line plot and using operations to solve problems related to line plots. So it's going to go over the definition of a line plot, and it has a video here that kind of goes through what a line plot is.
Hello, math friend.
You've got the parts of the line plot here labeled out, like your title, what each X represents, and the number line itself. There are some questions here. Or some steps, I should say, that goes over how to complete a line plot. You've got your data up here above, the steps to follow, and then the start of the line plot itself. Notice that we've got 8, 9, 10, and 11, but then we've had to put 8.5 in because if you look at your data up top here, 8.5 appears 2 times, so we need to include 8.5 here. Okay, here's another example where you're finishing the line plot. And another example, that's practice. And then you're going to come to your assignment, creating line plots. You click on the link, it'll open up the assignment. This assignment is 1 page long. You've got 5 problems. I'm going to go over a couple of these problems with you and at least get you started on them. So I'm going to do number 2, and then we'll move on and do number 3. Okay, so looking at number 2, here's our data. 8, 9.5, 10, 8, 8.5, 8, 8.5, 10, 9, 9, 9, 9.5, 10, 9.5, 8.5, 10.5. Now, if you look at your line plot, we've got 8, 9, 10, and 11. We're going to start by marking these data points on our line plot. So I like to start at the top and check them off as we go. We've got 1, 8, so I'm going to put an X over the 8. My X's aren't going to be the neatest because I'm using my mouse, but try to make that one a little bit neater. So that 1, 8. All right, sorry about that, guys. So I've got my first mark or my first data marked on my line plot, so I like to check it off. The next number we have is 9.5. So if I'm looking at my line plot, I've got 8, 9, but there's no 9.5. Well, I know a half falls in between 2 numbers, and I'm looking at 9.5. So 9.5 should fall between 9 and 10. So I'm actually going to plug that in to my line plot, 9.5. Now I can put an X above that 9.5. Try that again. There we go. And my next one is 10, so I can put a little X over this 10. Notice I'm checking them off as I go so I don't get confused and end up doing them more than once. And I'm going to do 8 again. And then 8.5. Again, 8.5 isn't on my line plot, but I can go ahead and write it in. 1/2 or a half falls in between 2 numbers, and I'm dealing with 8.5, so that's going to come between 8 and 9. Okay, and then I can put in my X. I'm checking them off as I go. My next is 8. Check it off. Then I've got 8.5 again. Check it off. I've got 10. Check it off. I've got 3 9s. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And notice I'm just stacking my X's. 9.5 is my next data point. Then 10. Starting to run out a little bit of room. It's not very neat. then 9.5, then 8.5, and then 10.5. 10.5 is not on this line point or line plot, so I'm going to add it in here between 10 and 11. And check it off. So there is your line plot for number 2 with all of the data points on your line plot. Notice I had to add in some of the numbers on the line plot. Let's go ahead and look at another one. Close that out. There we go. So that was number 2. We were dealing with halves. Let's look at number 3. Number 3, it looks like we were dealing with eighths. So that's where things are going to get a little bit trickier because we're dealing with eighths now. So I'm going to screenshot number 3. Make this bigger. So we've got 4 1/8, 2 4/8, 4 7/8, 4 5/8, 4 4/8, 2, and then so on. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to break up my line plots in eighths so that I can fill in these numbers that have a whole number and a fraction. So I need to break up between 2 and 3. I need to break it up into eighths. So let me get a different color here so it stands out. So between 2 and 3, I need to break it up into 8 pieces. So I'm going to start by breaking it in half. And that's 2.5. I'm just going to put a half. But really it's 2.5. Okay, then I'm going to break each half in half. And that's going to give me fourths. So now if you count the spaces, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I've got a fourth. 1/2 would also be known as 2/4. So we can write that out. And then I've got 3/4. And now I'm going to break my fourths into eighths. So I'm going to break in between each fourth, I'm going to break it into eighths. So there's 1, 2, right? 1/8, 1/4 would be 2/8. Then I've got 3/8. That first one was 1/8. So the hardest part is going to be making your eighths with this. 1/2 is going to be 4/8, right? Because half of 8 is 4. Then in between 1/2 and 3/4 is going to be 5/8. Then 3/4 is going to be 6/8. And then 7/8. So now I've got 2 1/8, 2 2/8, 2 3/8, 2 4/8, 2 5/8, 2 6/8, 2 7/8, then 3. And I need to do that between 3 and 4 and 4 and 5. So I'm going to break up eighths. I'm going to choose a different color. In between 3 and 4, I need to break it into eighths. So again, in half. Then each half is going to be broken into half. And each fourth is going to be broken into eighths. Okay, and then I can label it out. We've got 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, and 7/8. I'm sorry that's messy. I know that's hard to kind of see, but I've got my different eighths, and then I'm going to do that with my between 4 and 5. Break it in half, break each half in half, then break those fourths into eighths. And I've got 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, and 7/8. Okay. And those are all going to be eighths. Okay, so now that my number line is broken up into eighths, I can then go plug in my data points. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a different color. We'll do teal. So 4 1/8 is my first data point. So I'm going to go find 4, 2, 3, 4, 4 1/8. So here's 4, and 4 1/8 is going to be right next to it. Notice I'm finding the whole number first. 2 and 4/8 is my second data point, so I'm going to go find 2. 2, and then I'm going to count out to 4/8. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8. So put an X. 4 and 7/8. Go find 4 and find 7/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 4 and 5/8. Go find your 4, then find 5. 5/8. 4 and 4/8 will be right next to that one we just put. Notice I'm crossing off each data point. 2 holes. That's a little to the right. There we go. 3 and 3/8. I'm going to go find 3 holes. 3/8. Boom. 3 and 4/8. Go find 3 holes and then 4/8. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8. Okay. On my second row, 3 and 2/8. Here's my 3. Find 2/8. Put an X. 2 and 4/8. Here's 2. Find 4/8. Put an X. 2 and 1/8. Find your 2. Then find your 1/8. 2 and 1/8. Put an X. 4 and 1/8. 4 holes. Find your 4 holes. Count 1/8. We already have an X there, so we'll just put an X on top. 4 holes. 2 and 6/8. Find your 2 holes and then count out to 6/8. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8. 3 and 7/8. Find your 3 holes. Find 7/8. And your last one, 4 and 4/8. Find your 4 holes. Count out 4/8. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8. There's already an X above, so we'll just put an X above that one. Okay, and that's number 3. The hardest part is going to be labeling your 8s, but just remember to cut in half, then into 4ths, then into 8ths. When you're done, you will go back to Buzz. You'll go to your next activity tab, and you will attach your work. Don't forget the assignment is also here under your attachments. You'll click on your blue plus button and you will attach your work. Let me know if you have any questions.